Hello there once again, and welcome to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers. We're here every week meeting interesting people and dealing with topical issues, and this week we meet a couple of guests that have not been on the show previously.
Have not. We wanted to do a show about lawyering in 2012, and I looked around the state and picked out two of the best lawyers there are in the state of Oklahoma to come talk to us about it. The fellas I've known for a while, and I know what great work they do. They represent folks at all levels, the big companies, the small companies, the individuals, and they do it with a high ethical standard and high proficiency. And they're going to talk to you today about how lawyering is taking place today and contrast it with how it used to be, perhaps.
Ought to be an interesting show. It's coming up today on The Verdict. We'll be right back.
My path is different from the prototypical receivers.
The namesake himself, Mr. Welcome. Not recruited out of high school, not drafted into the NFL.
I'm not the fastest guy. I'm not that big.
He's the model of perseverance. He finds a way to make a way.
So let's have some fun today, huh? We're gonna play hard, we're gonna play tough.
He focuses on the kids that are not quite as fortunate as everyone else.
Way to go, Taylor.
The Boys and Girls Clubs, the Youth Football League.
80% of them are from single-parent home, so they hear a lot of negative stuff every day.
I think the coolest thing for us has been put in this weight room right here at Douglas.
It's made our kids want to be involved more and more.
Seeing them have losing seasons year after year. Next year, they win state.
For a company like Chesapeake to recognize the mission of the West Welcome Foundation, it tells me that they're committed to helping people.
My greatest hope and dream for these kids to go out and conquer everything they want. Hopefully we can push them in the right direction.
If you need big accounting firm expertise but aren't happy with the value or level of partner engagement from your current national firm, contact Hogan Taylor. Hogan Taylor provides national-level public accounting expertise with high-touch, local partner service in all areas of tax, audit, business valuation, and litigation support. Contact us at hogantaylor.com/The Verdict. Hogan Taylor, big enough to know, small enough to care.
Welcome back to The Verdict. Mick Cornett with Kent Myers, and Kent's going to introduce today's guests.
Today we're really pleased to have two outstanding lawyers in the state of Oklahoma join us to talk about lawyering in 2012. To my right is literally a 40-year friend of mine, Joel Wohlgemuth, who is the principal lawyer and founding lawyer in the Norman, Wohlgemuth, Chandler, and Dowdell law firm. He did his undergraduate work at Brown University, did his law work at Washington University. He's been practicing law in Oklahoma since 1971. He has distinguished himself in many areas, including being a member of the Board of Bar Examiners. He's on the advisory committee of the University of Tulsa College of Law, and many of the outstanding rating services rate Joel as one of the top lawyers in Oklahoma, has been, for instance, in Best Lawyers listed in the top 10 in Oklahoma. Joel, welcome. Glad to have you.
Thank you, Kent.
To my left is Sean Burrage. Sean is, again, a longtime friend of mine. Sean is an Oklahoma State Senator, the Honorable Sean Burrage, from District 2 in Claremore. Did his undergraduate work at the University of Oklahoma, did his law work the same place. He is a founding partner of Taylor Burrage Law Firm in Claremore. He has, as well as having an extensive civil practice in all courts in Oklahoma, he also has done some work aiding the court-appointed special advocates, the CASA program in Claremore and in the Tulsa area. He is on the Board of Bar Examiners also. He's also on the board of the OU Medical Center. This is the first visit for both these guys. Welcome. Glad to have you.
Glad to be here.
I guess the question is why? Why did you become a lawyer? Joel, let's start with you. Can you remember back?
Yeah, I became a lawyer because my mother, as I was telling Kent actually before the show, was the head of the juvenile court system in Pennsylvania, where I grew up. And she introduced me to a judge by the name of Morris Cohill, who was the juvenile court judge and went on to be on the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. And I just, at that point in my high school life, I sort of, that stimulated me to take the next step. So.
And Sean, what about you?
Well, I was born to very young parents, and my father's a lawyer, went on to be a federal judge, and now practicing law again. But I remember when my dad went to law school in Norman, and so as a child, I saw him go to law school, saw him practice law, and I always admired him and saw the good things he could do to help people. I grew up in Antlers, Oklahoma, and it seemed like something I'd like to do.
Okay, Joel, you mentioned you grew up in Pennsylvania. How'd you get here?
Yes. I came here from, I was a special assistant attorney general in Minnesota right out of law school, and I happened to meet playing tennis, actually. I was a tennis player in college. I happened to meet playing tennis Bob Risley, and Bob and Hayden Crawford in Tulsa had a practice, which was interesting because they were both University of Michigan Law School graduates and were the U.S. attorneys back to back. Hayden Crawford, who Kent knows, and we've tried cases against each other, was a Deputy Attorney General of the United States. So it was a real good beginning for me in Oklahoma.
And real fine fellas, by the way.
They were excellent lawyers and great men.
Well, Sean, you grew up in Antlers,
Right.
ended up in Claremore. How did that come about?
Well, I went to OU Law School, and then I went to Washington, D.C. and worked for U.S. Senator David Boren. I was his legislative director. Then he left the U.S. Senate and went to OU. He took me with him to OU. I was the director of state and federal relations, basically OU's lobbyist. And while I had that job, I met my law partner, Stratton Taylor, who was the president pro tem of the Senate at that time. We became friends. And Claremore was a thriving city then, is now, and he invited me to come up and practice law with him, so I did.
Yeah. Sean, tell me about practicing in Claremore. What's specifically would people in Oklahoma City and Tulsa who are watching this show want to know?
Well, it's still a small town. I mean, you know, Rogers County's got about 85, 90,000 people, but it still has a small town feel. I know everybody in the courthouse. I know all the judges. I know everybody in the court clerk's office. And so it's still, you know, nostalgic for me being from Antlers that it's got that small town feel. I know all the lawyers. In addition, though, I have the ability to practice statewide in all the federal and state courts, but, you know, I get to live 2.5 miles from my office. I walk to the courthouse to hearings.
All right, let's jump in and take a quick break. We'll be right back. We're discussing lawyering in 2012. You're watching The Verdict.
The thing that has made the most sense for me is realizing that I am still an educator, and that is what I do at the Chickasaw Nation. I'm Dr. Amanda Cobb-Greetham. I'm a historian, and I'm Chickasaw. The Chickasaw Cultural Center is amazing. It is a very, very special place devoted to the sharing and to the celebration of Chickasaw history and culture. State-of-the-art technology, exhibits that are not like anything I've ever seen. The Spirit Forest is incredible, and you feel as if you have actually just walked into a forest with huge trees all around you. It's timeless, and yet it's sort of also representative of our time depth, to really just sort of reach through time and touch the past. By the end of the exhibits, you really have a sense of Chickasaw cultural and political resurgence and the extent to which we are a healthy, dynamic, and vital tribe today. Chickasaws have always been an inclusive people. This is something for the whole community and for the state of Oklahoma.
They lift, grip, and bear pressure. They carry our state through every season. Hands that simply by doing their job, forge opportunity for nearly 350,000. These are the hands of Oklahoma's oil and natural gas industry, working sun up to sundown for our economy, our future, for every person who lives where these flags wave.
When you have something important to communicate, it becomes clear that there's a lot of competition for your audience's attention. So how can your message stand out and actually resonate with your audience? Legal Graphics has the answers. The team at Legal Graphics will work with you to plan, design, and even test your presentation to ensure your message will be heard and remembered. Call Legal Graphics today to schedule an appointment. The readiness is all.
We're back on The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers visiting with Joe Wohlgemuth and Sean Burrage. Sean, you're a state senator in northeastern Oklahoma. Does being a state senator impact your law career? How do those impact each other?
It does. I mean, I think there's some advantage in your high profile. You know, you have columns in the paper, your events, maybe more people know who you are. The problem is I'm gone 4 months out of the year. February, March, April, May, I'm in Oklahoma City 4 days a week. So as lawyers, we bill hours, so that takes away from my ability to do that. And then you also have the problem, some people think, well, now that you're a state senator, are you still practicing law? I get that question a lot. Do you still practice law? And yes, I still practice law.
Yeah. And how do your colleagues handle the departure when you're gone? Are they pretty understanding about it?
They're very understanding. They support me in every way they possibly can. I'm very fortunate.
Stratton understands that.
Yeah, I mean, my predecessor is also my law partner. Okay. And he served in the state senate for 28 years, so we were used to the routine, the program.
I want to ask both of you guys, start out with Joel. We've not had on this show up to this point a member of the Board of Bar Examiners. That, of course, is the organization that examines lawyers that have graduated from law school and want to become admitted to practice. It's the final big hurdle for someone being able to practice law, and you guys are both on the Board of Bar Examiners. Joel, tell me about that experience.
Well, I've been involved since about 1975, and we're appointed by members of the Supreme Court of Oklahoma. And it's been a very rewarding experience in really two ways, one of which is just in the process of trying to really improve kids who are going through law school and deal with them as they make it to the bar. And of course, we develop the questions, grade the questions. But even more than that, there's a process by which applicants for the bar are screened for any issues that might affect their ability to be lawyers and good lawyers and people of integrity. And so Sean and I, for example, will all year interview those who might have a prior problem of some type to see whether or not they are qualified to become lawyers. And frankly, you meet a lot of very interesting people, and who most of those people go on to be good lawyers, and it's a sort of an interesting piece of being a bar examiner.
Let me ask you, well, I'll direct this to Sean. Is one of your jobs to create questions that they are asked on the exam and to grade those answers?
That's correct. There are 16 essay questions on every bar exam, and as an associate bar examiner, we're given one to write. You write that question, and then you grade every answer to that question. So, in February, the bar, you have about a couple hundred people, 200 people that take the bar, and the July bar, it's more like 400. But you have to grade every answer to that question.
And I suppose nowadays they take the exam both in handwriting and on a computer.
More and more people are typing. When I first started doing this 10 years ago, it was probably 80-90% people writing, and now it's about 50-50 people handwriting and typing.
What's the length of an answer typically?
Oh, I would say about 500 words or so. And it depends on how long the question is. Sometimes you make a multi-part question. Sometimes you just have one or two big questions in it. But I usually run my questions by another examiner like Joel to make sure I'm not too far off the mark in what I'm asking.
What are you looking for? What are you trying to figure out from this perspective?
Understanding of the issues and clarity in their writing. Being able to spot the issues, cite the law, apply the law in a way that I can understand it.
Joel, what's been your experience on the grading process?
We are really looking at the same things that Sean mentioned, but it's interesting that these are questions, and I think Sean alluded to this, in which there are no real answers. So the grades are really based on analytical ability and clarity, and focusing in on somebody who we're hopeful is going to be a good lawyer by their writing skills, which is probably the most important skill a lawyer can have today.
Well, I want to focus right on that point, if you don't mind. You have been known over the years as an excellent writer yourself. Have you seen any change in the writing ability of lawyers, for instance, law students, on the bar exam answers, like in the late 70s, early 80s up to now?
Yes, in fact, I think the law schools have made an effort to develop writing as being a priority item. So the writing is better that we're seeing from new lawyers graduating, and right now I think the central piece of being a good lawyer is your ability to express yourself in writing, because less and less cases are being tried in the courts. It's not so much going down there, but it's being able to present your position, as you know, in writing.
Sean, what cases give you the most satisfaction? When you take a case and it's done, there's probably some you just couldn't wait for them to end, and there's others that probably make you realize this is why I became an attorney in the first place.
I think I knew this is why I became an attorney. I think it was the late 90s. I had a case. I was a fairly new lawyer in which I represented a child, a young lady in the juvenile justice system. She was a deprived child. And her mother had been in and out of prison. There had been a lot of abuse in the family. And as the child's attorney, I moved to terminate her mother's parental rights. And I tried that to a jury. And I won, and I took it to the appellate court, and I won again. And that allowed that girl to get on with her life and to be adopted by what was her foster family now, and she's now very successful.
Same question. What would you think would be one of the most satisfying things you've done, Joel?
Well, when I started practicing law, there was no federal public defender, and the chief judge of the federal court would appoint a handful of lawyers, and I was just fortunate to be one of them to get involved early on in representing indigents in the federal system. And those cases have really climbed up to the 10th Circuit Court of Appeals, and I had a couple actually in the United States Supreme Court. Those cases and other cases that I've continued to handle, criminal cases, which have involved trying to vindicate the rights of public figures as well as people of little means who are, I think, abused somewhat by a system in which prosecutors have unlimited discretion with respect to what they may pursue.
Now, you guys have both handled high-profile, high-dollar, big client cases. I'm struck by the fact that neither of you named one of those cases as the most satisfying, but yet perhaps the underprivileged or deprived representation as being more satisfying for you.
It is, and really it turns out it turns out that really the cases that give me the most satisfaction, and I think Sean is probably the same way, are those that you can really try to make a change in the system as well as in really the life of your client in the future. So those are not that business cases don't have levels of satisfaction, but
well, they pay the bills.
That's
yes,
right.
They do.
They do.
Sean, what about the technology changes? How have they affected the legal industry?
Well, I feel like I sort of bridged the gap there. I got out of law school in 1993, didn't have a cell phone. When we first started practicing law, we were the only, when I first started practicing law, we were the only law firm in town that had a fax machine, and we didn't have email accounts. And so now, I mean, talk about the writing. I think some of the poorest writing we see now is we email back and forth very quickly sometime, and you see some poor writing that you wouldn't have seen before when you had correspondence through the mail. So I think the technology with the email has made a big difference. The ability to do video conference calls. You can do depositions by phone or by video conference now, where used to you'd have to travel across the nation. So it's made things easier, but also more complicated.
Mm-hmm. And Joel, same question.
Well, I think I really have not progressed technologically like Sean. Sean's a pro at this, but and Ken, I've seen Ken
still
as well.
reading by candlelight.
And I still do that, but I have my tablet, and I have a firm belief that every piece of litigation, whether it be civil or criminal, comes down to 3 or 4 key points. And you can put them on a 3x5 card. And if you focus on those points, to me, that's more important than any technology or PowerPoint presentation that can be developed by a major law firm that you may be against. So I've always sort of operated on that basis.
Do you feel like the candidates that are coming out of law school today are more prepared or less prepared than they were, say, 10 or 20 years ago?
Well, they're actually doing more to law schools now to prepare them for the bar. I mean, there's been a big emphasis on trying to get kids to pass the bar, because they're going to law school now, and if you go to one of the private schools, you're coming out owing between $125,000 and $200,000. So passing the bar is key, because if you don't have that bar card, you can't practice. So there's a lot of emphasis there on getting through that test. As far as being prepared to practice law, I don't think any lawyer who spends 3 years in law school is really prepared to practice law. I think they need to go somewhere and have a mentor in the office, or if they have to go out by themselves, they need to have some other lawyers with experience real close. I mean, I went to CLE when I was a young lawyer once, and the guy gets up and goes, "How to take a deposition?" And he said, "Let me tell you about my legal career." He goes, "I spent the first 3 years of my career getting my teeth kicked in." And that is somewhat true, because there's so much to learn. So I don't know if they're ready to practice law without any assistance, but I think they're doing a good job of teaching the law.
It seems to me that judges want cases to settle. You sense that? Is that a trend?
Yes, in fact, I was shocked to hear about a month ago that in the Northern District of Oklahoma, which is the federal system in Tulsa and several other counties, that last year only 2% of the civil cases went to trial. 98% were either settled or disposed of by some type of motion practice. So, and there's various sophisticated systems that the judges have developed and implemented to, that are alternative dispute resolution techniques that have pushed that along.
Are you seeing that too, Sean?
Oh, absolutely. In the federal system, you have to have some sort of settlement conference or alternative dispute resolution. Even in the state system, where when I first started practicing law 20 years ago, some people had never even been to a mediation. And now, as part of the order the court gives you is when you can come back and have your trial date, it says you must have had a settlement conference or a mediation before you can have your pretrial conference, which is what you do to get ready for trial. So the judges are forcing parties to go to settlement conference and mediation, which wasn't happening when I first got involved.
Joel and Sean ask you both the same question. Joel, directed to you first. If you could make a single change in the practice of law or the system with which we all deal, what would it be to make it work better?
I think it would be the presence in the state system of law clerks, as in the federal system, that are available to judges.
Explain that a little bit.
And all of the federal judges each have a minimum of 2 law clerks that are very, very bright graduates, the top of your class in law school, and they can help the judge.
Lawyers.
They are lawyers, and they are extremely helpful to the judges. Obviously, when all of the written projects are reviewed, and they help prepare orders and things like that. In our state system, it's phenomenal and really sort of shocking that our state judges are not funded in any way to have law clerks, and sometimes not even they sometimes will hire volunteers out of law schools, but they have no law clerks, and they have a much larger load of cases than the federal system. So my big change would be where we are every day in state court to have judges who have maybe 600 cases, but also have 2 lawyers helping them prepare them.
Sean?
I totally agree. That it would be very important for the state court system. Of course, there he is asking the legislature for more money, to get that done. But anyway,
well, you can get that done.
I think also at the state court system, I would like to see electronic filing statewide. I practice in all 77 counties like you do, Kent, but I've primarily 6 counties that are around, and so we're every day sending runners to file things at the court clerk's office, and within about a 50-mile radius. And I think we'll get there soon, but if we could have electronic filing to keep you from having to physically go to the court clerk's office to file things, it would save a lot of time, be much more efficient, save on postage, because when you file electronically, then your opposing party automatically gets it emailed to them like you do in the federal system.
We've got about 30 seconds left. Sean, what's the craziest case you've ever been presented with? Someone just walks in off the street and wants you to do something. Anything come to mind?
I can't talk about the craziest case.
Well, Joel, can you talk about your craziest case?
Yeah, my craziest case was 13 years with Kent Myers, going around the country to 39 states, and no real resolution at the end.
Well, no, it was resolved at the end. He won.
I wouldn't say that.
That's going to do it for today's show. Thank you both for coming in. Kent and I'll have a final word when we get back.
The good life comes naturally to Tulsa, where nature's beauty is matched with an eye for aesthetics. A legacy of neighborhoods graced with lawns and landscaping and handsome homes. A place that seems to have patented an ideal lifestyle. Bank First is loyal to the quality of life Tulsa assures its citizens, to the priority placed on education, culture, and growth. Loyal to builders who transform raw land into residential charm. Developers who see opportunity and add vitality to Tulsa's economy. Bank First serves both enterprise and private lives that need a loyal partner. It's how we help nurture this city's very good life. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
All children deserve a life of hope and love, but sometimes they experience a life of pain, neglect, and abuse.
When that happens, each child deserves all the quality assistance and representation that can be offered in our legal system. For more information, call 23-CHILD.
Oklahoma Lawyers for Children, helping to bring hope and love back to the lives of abused children.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
You have children coming from a different lifestyle, different mindset. You have to open your arms and really do what you have to do to have that child become a part of your family. And if it's more patience, that's what you do. Kids gotta know they can trust you. And that's what we've tried to do with these kids.
You will always be mom and dad to me.
The Journal-Record is pleased to be a sponsor of The Verdict. The Journal-Record, since 1903, the best source of Oklahoma business news and legal information. And for almost 30 years, Oklahoma political, government, and business leaders have turned to the McCarville Report for accurate, reliable, inside information. Visit the McCarville Report online.
Welcome back to the set of The Verdict. Mick Cornett and Kent Myers here wrapping up a show of two very interesting guys, Joe Wohlgemuth and Sean Burrage.
It's always fun to do a show with a friend, and these two guys are both friends, and they really are a credit to the profession. And we couldn't show you two better lawyers out of the state of Oklahoma than we did today.
We have a website we'd like to draw your attention to, theverdict.tv. That's our website where you can log on and tell us about a guest or a topic you'd love to see us discuss on a future edition of The Verdict. But that's going to do it for today's show. For Kent Myers, I'm Mick Cornett. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next week with another show of The Verdict.
The preceding program was produced exclusively for the Cox Channel.